we're gonna start off today with a reaction to the Hippy Dippy Championship from Friday afternoon or Friday evening, and it was apparently Rob Nur against Kevin Castley. Now I despise both of these people for different reasons. Although Rob Nur's like anti-interventionist policy is something that I can get on board with. I don't even know what the topic of this debate is, but all I know is it's got two lol cows involved, so we're gonna get something good out of it. So without further ado, let's put the video on, see what happens.
Ukraine topics coming up in discussions. Now, last analysis on this. I think Stardust.
Well, let me stand. Can I stand up for Stardust a little bit here?
One second, but then we got to go into the next debate. Okay, let's bring them in. Since they're mystery opponents, I worked very hard to make sure that the opponents were not leaked. And so we don't have a Titantron, and we don't have music intros for them, or even Billy the announcer. We didn't even tell Billy the Fridge. We were very scared of this information being leaked. We tried to keep it secret, and so we do not have that. So the topic is, should we use nuclear weapons? Let me just be clear. That is the topic. Should we use nuclear weapons? A very interesting topic, to say the least.
Well,
let's bring him in.
This is going to be a laugh a minute. Let's enjoy this one. It's a shame we've not got Tyler Bluntman on this particular panel. Tyler, everyone should have personal nuclear weapons, Bluntman.
Oh, there's...
Hey, welcome you two. Welcome.
Oh,
Happy...
here.
Kevin Castley must be the only person in the world who has worse facial hair than Robin.
Let's flip and go.
No, wait, give me a second here. Now I'm having some computer. What is going on? I don't know. We're good, maybe.
Audio.
It's
at least he's managed to sort out a camera that works in 16:9 aspect ratio. But now his audio quality is screwed. Again, I cannot point fingers, as my audio quality is always bad because I have no idea what I'm doing. But you know, Rob does this like every day.
It's Kevin working with the CIA to hack your computer, Rob.
Of course.
Yeah, CIA, Mossad, Deep State, all those guys.
He's deep with Mossad. He's deep with Mossad. My goodness, I'm happy to have you both here, though, and I gotta say, this is a very...
I don't even know who's going to be arguing for which side of this debate. I'm assuming fucking Castley the Hawk is going to be going for, yes, we should use nuclear weapons. But anyway,
we did not plan this around the Ukraine situation. I just want to make that clear for everybody at home. It is a topic me and Kevin have debated before, so this is not at all about specifically the Ukraine situation.
Okay, in which case Kevin is definitely arguing that we should use nuclear weapons.
Many people have asked me to host specifically a Ukraine debate on Hippy Dippy Championship. I felt uncomfortable due to the nature of the show about hosting.
At this point, who cares, Dylan? At this point, literally everyone has turned the Ukraine cycle into content for their streams. I don't think anyone would begrudge you doing Ukraine-based debate as has a little bit out off color as that might be.
Hosting like a fun kind of championship style.
Can't be any worse than the rape debate with Destiny.
Debate about an active ongoing war where people are dying right now. Where Moore is talking about something, in my opinion, even though Kevin will not agree with me, talking about something that, in my opinion, will never probably happen. Us using these nuclear weapons for strategic capacity, I think, is more, less, I think, obscene. So I would like to welcome both of these people for the mystery match. I mean, you guys being the mystery opponent, I don't think anybody expected this matchup at all. I would say even you both didn't expect this matchup.
True.
So I'm excited for you guys to go back and forth. The topic again is, should we use nuclear weapons? A hell of a topic. I'm sure everybody in my chat is in Kevin's corner. So we're going to...
Right, this is the first and last time I'm going to say these words. I am rooting for Rob Nur.
Since Rob's having technical issues, are you fine with me giving Kevin the opening statement?
It's fine.
Okay, your audio right now, one second. It's very scuffed, as I can say.
What's just to let you know what happened is, I don't know what it is, and it must be a heating issue. Anytime I'm streaming and I try to bring up a video or something, it crashes on me, and then it resets all my audio and stuff, so, yeah.
Gotcha, okay. So I'll give it time to...
better.
Right now, it should be better?
It sound better now?
No, it does not.
Okay. Okay. You got it. Leave Kevin go. I'll figure it out.
Okay, got you. Kevin, you can start us off.
Okay, let's go. It's great to be here. Thanks to Dylan for having me on. Yeah, here we go. Hippy Dippy Championship. Let's go. I'm Kevin Castley, host of Superpower Broadcasting, stream 7 days a week, every day, Twitch, YouTube. Follow me over there. I'm on Twitter at Kevin Castley. I'm here obviously representing the, generally speaking, the less popular position, though it's not as unpopular as people might think. Somewhat recent polling found that about 30% of Americans agree with me on this with respect to North Korea, and I'm making the case tonight that a nuclear first strike is in the interest of the United States with respect to North Korea, and that
This guy's just crazy. He's just like legitimately mental. He's just like a bloodthirsty maniac.
in terms of a strategic capacity, as Roger Wicker said about a month ago, nuclear weapons should always be on the table. That doesn't necessarily mean that you use them, but to tell the world that you won't use them sends the message that, look, you might have them, but they're not really a deterrent, because a deterrent, it only exists if you have the capacity to use it and you have the will to use it. And if you don't have either of those, you can have the will to use all you want, but if you don't have any, it's not going to work. And if you have 8,000 or 7,000, but you have no will to ever use it, and the enemy knows that, then it's not going to work either. So deterrence relies on having a willingness to use it. And in the case of North Korea specifically, the conditions there with respect to their ambitions and with respect to their objectives vis-a-vis South Korea, it requires the use of relatively low yield tactical ground penetrating nuclear weapons such as the B-61, I believe Mod 12 version, to take out their deep command and control center and their nuclear sites before they can launch. Because we're in a situation with North Korea specifically where the alternative is they launch at us or we lose South Korea.
No way that Pyongyang is going to launch nuclear missiles. They don't even have ICBMs that can their shoreline.
So that's basically all I got to say right now. I know we talked.
At least not ICBMs that aren't going to get aren't going to get intercepted by missile defenses.
Like maybe we could get to Ukraine or whatnot, but I don't know. So this is what I got to offer, and I got to say, yeah, it might not look great optics wise or anything. What's worse is getting hundreds of millions of people killed because we don't have the willingness to take out that regime.
What's worse is loads of people die nuclear weapons, which is why we've got to kill millions of people ourselves first. Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay. Rob, you can
like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Specifically, the condition.
Unless he's going to argue that there is a specific reason why we should use tactical nuclear weapons deliberately to target bases and nuclear sites in North Korea. I think it's Punggye-ri is their nuclear test site and their nuclear advancements, etc. Unless you can justify to me, unless you can justify that you can create a nuclear weapon that's literally only going to damage the specific military targets in North Korea, but isn't going to target, say, the rest of the region and cause nuclear fallout that's going to give people cancer and irradiate huge areas of North Korea in general. It doesn't justify using nuclear weapons over any other kind of conventional weapons. I don't know what he's trying to say here.
There with respect to their ambitions and with respect to their objectives vis-a-vis South Korea, it requires the use of relatively low yield tactical ground penetrating nuclear weapons such as the B-61, I believe Mod 12 version, to take out their deep command and control center and their nuclear sites before they can launch. Because we're in a situation with North Korea specifically where the alternative is they launch at us or we lose South Korea. So that's basically all I got to say right now. I know we talked maybe we could get to Ukraine or whatnot, but I don't know. So this is what I got to offer, and I got to say, yeah, it might not look great optics wise or anything. What's worse is getting hundreds of millions of people killed because we don't have the willingness to take out that regime. So thank you.
Okay. Rob, you can also go. I didn't schedule this for, by the way, I'll just throw this out there because both of you, my audience and everybody loved your guys' last debate. If you want, we can make this a cage match if you want, if you guys know the cage match rules, but we can also just keep it a regular match if you want.
What's cage match rules?
So cage match rules is, let's say I'm trying to moderate because you're talking over each other. You both for 2 occasions can say cage match and I can't moderate. And that means you can just go ham. Of course, but you still have to follow Twitch TOS.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
That's
okay.
Fine.
We have 2
more entertaining for the audience. That's fine.
That means this is now the second cage match of the night.
To be fair, Amity Island, to be fair to steal Man Kevin's positions, he's specifically talking about some kind of tactical nuclear strike that specifically targets military bases and doesn't affect the civilian populations. As far as I'm aware, that's what he's arguing here. Obviously, I can't really elucidate further on that. He's only given his opening statement. But I'm assuming, because he's not like actually insane, just kind of insane, that this is the That's what his argument is. But I don't see why a low-yield tactical nuclear weapon is necessary to hit these specific military bases when you could just use regular conventional weapons. Like, he's not made it clear as to why there should be about why he should specifically rely on nuclear weapons in this. I don't think I mean, again, regardless, even if you use tactical nuclear weapons against North Korea, they're still going to retaliate, which then causes lots more damage in the US. So again, he's just not making any sense with any of these points, even if I'm trying to steelman his position here.
Tonight, we just doubled up on our cage matches. Rob, you can do your introductions.
Like, North Korea is not going to go, oh, well, I know they're using nuclear weapons against us, but it's not against our civilian population, so we shouldn't retaliate. When, hang on a minute, that is under the, the admirable yet incorrect understanding that the leaders of North Korea are saying. So I don't think there's going to be any kind of difference between nuclear strikes from the US hitting military or non-military targets, which will, necessitate some kind of response nuclear strike from North Korea that would hit civilian population. Exactly, it's absolutely psychotic. You're absolutely right, Empty Island. But yeah, again, we'll see where he goes with this. I want to try and steelman him as much as possible, but at the moment he's looking pretty wild. Because again, he will, even if you're just hitting like the military sites and it's not residential, how much nuclear fallout is there going to be that's going to irradiate huge portions of the landmass? Not just so that it will spread onto residential populations, but have future impacts in the area moving forward as well. That would then hit may then hit other future residential sites as cities expand, etc. It's just nonsense.
All right. Yeah, thanks for being here. Even though I despise the majority of Kevin's opinions, I'm glad that he could join me for this debate. Yeah, so I was unaware that it was going to be specific to North Korea, but that's fine. The topic was...
Well, the topic is not specific to North Korea, but...
Right.
But yeah,
right. So the topic was just, should we use nuclear weapons? That's a vague topic, so I'm more than happy to talk specifically about what Kevin's saying. The reason that's vague is because I don't think even someone who deplores sort of interventionism and stuff like me could say absolutely no. For example, if the United States is on its last leg and nuclear weapons are being detonated in the United States, of course, that would be a time that we would be justified in retaliation to use nuclear weapons. But we're talking about first strikes. We're talking specifically about North Korea. Fine. More than happy to take that debate. No, it's an absolute disaster to suggest that for a litany of reasons. First, let's talk about the obvious negative of this. It is not a flippant thing to talk about using a nuclear weapon and erasing people from the world in such a huge scale like this. I understand that there are some low yield, like they call them bunker busters and things like that, low yield tactical nuclear weapons that are supposed to be able to bury into the ground and cause explosions and stuff like that, that are supposedly more contained, but we don't know exactly what the sort of fallout for that sort of thing would be. To even talk about this so flippantly, I find to be absolutely disgusting. It is to devalue the lives of the people, not just of North Korea, but around the region, and to value the lives of probably the conflict that would escalate around it, where we would probably see other countries then that would get incensed by this, that normally would be on the side of the United States, that would say, you didn't have to use nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are a threshold that we should not cross. Once we do, it will drive proliferation in countries around the world that will want to even better keep up. They'll see that the United States again used a nuclear weapon as a first strike, and they'll want to be prepared and fearful that the United States will do that and will develop nuclear and other WMDs to be able to prevent from that. Now, this is all being done in the name of something that's totally not necessary. First, we don't see the wide-scale escalation of North Korea to South Korea right now. Second, we should be more concerned about people in the United States and things that are going on here. I have plenty of issues that we could talk about going on in the United States. Every time that we get involved with these people in the military-industrial complex that lie us into these foreign regime change wars and things like that, we end up making the situation worse. Thirdly, there's all sorts of other things, conventional ways, if we had to go to war with Korea, that would be more successful than nuclear weapons anyways. There's no need that we need to use nuclear weapons. It's an escalation and a provocation around the world that we don't need to escalate for. And fourthly, there are diplomatic solutions that might be more effective anyways, and even if not diplomatic, clandestine solutions that would be better served. But the same excuse that we'll use in North Korea, we'll use in Libya, we'll use in Afghanistan, we'll use in Syria, and we'll use in any country around the world.
Yeah, Rob tends to be pretty on the nose with his like anti-interventionist takes. He's a bit of a libertarian, so at least he and I see similar in that regard, right? But of course, unfortunately, he does that because he thinks that he wants. I think he just wants less tax in general, not because he wants the tax money to be used for better things, which is what normal people want. Hey, thank you for the follow, Kim Joasti. I think that's how they're pronounced. There. Welcome to the No Justice stream. Hope you're doing well.
To be able to say that it justifies preemptive strikes and things of that nature, this will become the norm. It's absolutely despicable, and we should fight against even celebrating it in those causes. The last thing I'll say is this. He says, remember, his position in this is that we should use them, and then he says, but we should never tell people we shouldn't. There's some truth to that, right? I do believe it's one of the things I liked about Trump was that he was seen as unpredictable. I don't want an actual lunatic that's going to drop nuclear weapons like Kevin Cassidy in office, but I also don't want to tell our enemies, oh, here are things that we would never do. So I would never want to do a nuclear first strike, but I don't mind some bravado letting our enemies around the world thinking that that could be a possibility. But we should never do that. We should not have a nuclear first strike on North Korea. It's an insane idea.
Yeah, so I think what's insane and what is horrible for the people of the region is the Kim regime and their ambitions are
I think the issue is that Kevin is just like, he hates communism literally so much he will bomb communism out of people. Like, this guy would literally been in support of the resistance war. Like, he literally would have gone into Vietnam and just like slaughtered thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, just to stop communism because this guy is such a fucking hawk. So it's hardly unexpected, right? But also in general, if you want North Korea not to launch a proactive strike or whatever, that you think there is a danger of them launching a proactive strike, then just stop sanctioning them so much so that you keep dragging all of their citizens into mortal peril, right? These sanctions aren't doing anything to impact the actual the actual oligarchs in North Korea. All it does is hurt the smallest people there. It's not like when you sanction places like Russia where the power is in the oligarchs, the power is in the billionaire banks, right? So any kind of economic sanctions naturally hurts the people in power. That's not going to happen in some kind of shoeshist economic system. It's not the same.
are in such a direction that we know what they're doing. And I've got videos on my channel going over their end game. I've talked about this on Superpower Broadcasting. My opponent here, Rob, would imply, it is said tonight, that I speak about this flippantly. But I don't. I've thought about this. I've looked into North Korea for the last 16 years. I've kept up with them since they got nuclear weapons. I've followed their nuclear program. This is not a flippant thing. I don't say this like, oh yeah, it's gonna be super happy fun times. No. I say this because it's either they get struck or we get struck. And the thing is, the North Korean
That's just not true. There's just no evidence that any kind of preemptive strike from North Korea is actually ever going to happen.
military currently has the capability to hit everywhere to Central America, which includes all the contiguous United States. It includes Hawaii, it includes Alaska, Florida. It also includes basically all of Canada is within their range. This is a situation with that regime where we have to take out their nuclear capability before they get to a level where we can't, because Russia's at that level. We don't want another Russia on our hands. We don't want to sit back and wait for them to have 8,000 nuclear weapons. This is a regime that has killed about 8 million people since 1948, since their inception. This is a regime which starved
True, Amity Island, so true. Kimchi and toasty. Ah, okay. Touche. I love it. Yeah, quite Amity Island. Yeah, they almost certainly would believe that. But yeah, exactly. The only reason why North Korea is in such a state there is at the moment why there's so much upheaval is because the sanctions that have been imposed, and because these are like trade sanctions, the people who are getting hit are the people at the bottom. It's incredibly unjust. Whereas there should be a diplomatic solution to this.
15% of their people in order to get those nuclear weapons. This is a regime, mind you, which my opponent would say, well, we should try diplomacy or whatever first. Look, I was making an argument with Russia today on Twitter that we shouldn't go the nuclear route like some people were suggesting, because we can try the economic route. And I think we should try that before we do war with Russia. But we've tried that with North Korea and it did not work. We tried it for 30 years. And every single goddamn time we sit down and do 6-party talks or we do whatever process over there and we get them at the table, what do? They always do some belligerence. Then they get us to the table. We make a deal. They break the deal. And then they brag about it after and say, oh, yeah, you know what? We didn't actually honor that agreement, but we have the stuff that you gave us now, whether it was fuel or food or whatever. When they give out the food to their population, they keep the American flags on it. They keep the international flags on it. Why do they do that?
All right. We're not just doing the Kevin monologue hour.
They said they're paying tribute to their
It's not
great
just-
leaders.
Okay, yeah,
Right. Not just the Kevin monologue hour. So
Based.
a couple questions. We'll have some back and forth on this. You suggest that the reason to do a nuclear first strike now is because they could become another Russia. Would that mean that you would have been for launching a nuclear device at Russia if we could have done so before they developed a nuclear weapon?
Well, there were actually plans on the books by the Brits and the U.S. Before the Soviets did First Lightning in 1949 and got nuclear weapons, where they had planned about 200 different targets to take out the industrial.
Yeah, no, you don't get to Amity Island. He's from America, and America are the good guys. They're the world police. They get to have all the weapons, but no one else is allowed the weapons. It's the Brotherhood of Steel. That's what it is. The Brotherhood of Steel. That's who they are.
capabilities of the Soviet Union to cripple the Red Army in Europe. What that basically meant was, if that had been done, we could have avoided the entire Cold War, the Vietnam War, the
Right.
Korean
So
War,
I'm
all this other
asking.
stuff. We could have killed potentially with China.
That's a
potentially,
clever way. That's a
we
clever
gotta
way to
say-
not answer
okay,
the question.
Wait,
Because
wait,
there's
wait,
no-
wait, okay,
We gotta
okay.
save 100 million lives from communists.
Kevin, wait, okay. So you guys are talking over each other like right from the start. So I'm gonna have Rob be able to respond to
See, at the start, it starts off with like, oh well, we could have, prevented the Cold War, could have prevented this, and then just like, no, I just wanted to stop communism. This is it's his only viewpoint. I mean, it doesn't matter how many people that any theoretical war might kill. You just got to stop communism. That's all it's got to do.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough to do right, because I like to have a back. I can talk in 10-minute chunks too. Everyone watching knows it. So if that's what it's going to be, just monologues, that's fine. I'm trying to have a back and forth. So that was a long-winded way of saying yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I must say, it is incredibly hypocritical of Rob North, of all people, to criticize somebody else for monologuing. I mean, come on, Rob. You are literally like known as the rap god for how long he monologues and how quickly he monologues. So he's in no position to criticize somebody else for monologuing.
Yes,
a
would have been-
Norwegian male
yes would
saying
be fine.
yes.
Right. Should we have bombed China? Should we have nuked China before they developed nuclear weapons?
Well, you don't have to nuke them specifically, right? So there are only a couple cases. I mean, now this topic about nuclear weapons, I only bring up North Korea because that's the only case today where it's appropriate. I'm not.
We should nuke the Republic of the Congo, just in case they get nuclear weapons, and because they are a social democracy, which as far as Kevin Cassidy is concerned, is basically communism at this point anyway. So why yes, fucking nuke the Republic of the Congo? Fuck it, nuke Laos. Why not?
I'm not saying go around and nuke Iran. I'm not saying nuke Russia. I'm not saying nuke China.
That's no. That's different. You're saying just like with Russia. Once Russia had the weapons, now it's difficult to deal with. So that's why we should nuke North Korea first. So I'm saying, should we have nuked Russia before they had the weapons? You said yes. I'm asking, should we have nuked China before they had the weapons?
See, it's a bit more complicated than that. The answer with China is it wouldn't have actually required it.
How about we nuke Nepal? They literally have a Marxist-Leninist in charge, and they've not got nuclear weapons yet. So if we nuke Nepal now, no chance of them developing nukes later. You see, checkmate, anti-intervention.
With North Korea, it does because of how buried they are. I mean, I don't know if you know this or not. North Korea is the most underground country in the world. A lot of their bunkers are in excess of
100% Amity Island, 100%. Like, if America wants to not be seen around the rest of the world as just like the school bullies of the world, they should just stop. They should just fucking stop doing it. There's a reason why the Vietnamese call it the resistance war against America, right? Or the America War for some people as well. There's a reason why when Top Gear did their Vietnam challenge, the booby prize is that you had to ride around on an American motorcycle. They fucking hate him, and with good reason. Like,
60 to 100 meters below ground, and conventional weapons alone, there simply are not the conventional bunker busters in existence that deal with them. And so in North Korea, the situation is such that it actually requires nuclear penetration in a way that Iran doesn't, in a way that obviously Russia's too late. They've already got 8,000 nukes. Good luck with that. The problem with North Korea is that they've got over 100 right now, and if we sit and wait, eventually they'll have that magic number where they've got enough that they can invade South Korea and they can tell the US to get the fuck out, and America will. And why is that? Because
why is 100 not enough, Kevin? Why is 100 not enough that they can just invade regardless? And I don't think that's on the cards anyway.
North Korea is going to have enough that even if you shoot down most of them, you still lose all your
So
cities.
I'll take my chunk of time in a minute, but just one more question before I kind of retort to this. You said that North Korea already has the capacity to strike many sites in the United States, correct?
All of them. Yeah,
Okay,
the Hwasong 16 it has 16,000 kilometer range.
Right. So why haven't they invaded South Korea?
Because they don't have a sufficient number of nukes to guarantee that America will stay the fuck out yet. They need about 1,200 to 1,500 to make it work. They have about 100 right now. So they're in the process
why would they need that?
They're not even like 10% of the way there. Considering the level of which the people are engaging in sanctions on North Korea, what do you think the likelihood is they're going to make 1,400 new nuclear weapons? Considering they've been trying to build an arsenal for for decades and decades, right? And they've only got to 100 right now. This is ridiculous.
That many to make it work.
Because if you're just on the line.
Well, that said, I don't know why I'm trying to treat any of his points with a degree of of charitability, considering how insane his original point.
maybe America does stand up. If you got enough that you have guaranteed mutually assured destruction, then America, now you've got a very good chance of saying, you know what, you're not going to lose New York and all your cities to save Seoul, so you're going to get the fuck out. And at that point, South Korea promptly surrenders because their war plans rely on America being there to fight. And if America gets the fuck out, they surrender within 48 hours.
So first off, you can see already how his position doesn't make sense, because if that was the case, his argument seems to be they need to be able to cause enough pain to the United States to where they'd be able to, they're just biding their time. They'd love to invade South Korea, but once they have mutually assured destruction, they'd be able to do this. But there's no reason that capacity wouldn't exist now, even if they couldn't completely.
It doesn't.
Please,
no, but it doesn't. They haven't mass manufactured their topals yet.
Wait, 1 second. We gotta let Rob respond.
So they would be able to cause such harm if they were able to hit with 100 nuclear weapons. Explain to me how not. So they have 100 nuclear weapons to hit any site in the United States.
I can't even hear him.
Okay. They would 100 nuclear weapons. They would be able to wipe DC off the map. Correct?
You're missing the point, Rob. You're missing the point, Rob. Here's the thing. 100 nuclear. No. I'm going to answer your fucking question.
Exactly. If Washington dies, that's fine. But as soon as some other, as long as more than one, it's an untenuous.
100 nuclear weapons that they're in possession of right now doesn't mean 100 star bombers. What they have is a few nuclear weapons which are in the hundreds of kiloton range, and they've got a lot of smaller ones, and those smaller ones are not miniaturized. The numbers that they've got that are actually miniaturized that they can fit on these long range ICBMs is low. It's low, and it's not enough for them yet to guarantee 100% effectiveness that they could get the US to stay out. They need a magic number around 1,200 to 1,500, somewhere in that range. They're nowhere near there yet, but they will be if we wait 20 or 30 years, if we want to try diplomacy all over again. Isn't that the definition
It's been however many years already. It doesn't make any sense.
of insanity? It hasn't worked before, and it won't work in the future because they're negotiating in bad faith, and they've admitted it on multiple occasions. Here's the deal. All right.
They
need to mass manufacture the capability, and they don't yet.
Okay. We gotta respond.
Right. So
it's just frustrating that Rob isn't especially going in the line here that yeah, you're absolutely right, Amity Island. I don't know why Rob isn't spearing the point here that he's specifically saying we need a preliminary strike specifically on military targets with tactical nuclear weapons, like tactical bunker busters or whatever. How he seems to think that there's some spicy plan in which North Korea wants to be able to invade and also threaten the US to stay out with some kind of nuclear war with a preliminary strike of their own. As if they wouldn't launch a retaliatory strike based on tactical nuclear weapons being used on their military bases. If you're genuinely of the opinion that the North Korean regime has literal no care for the sanctity of human life, so much so they would be in the position of using nuclear weapons at all, then surely you'd realize that there's no difference to them whether you hit their military installations or whether you hit their residential areas as to whether they would engage in a retaliatory nuclear strike. It doesn't make any sense.
you can see that already he's kind of changing it. First, he made it sound like it's so bad already that they could hit any target in the United States. Now he's saying, well, it's not that bad.
Well, they can.
Please.
But they can't hit all.
Look, if you want to interrupt, the only time you can do that, if interrupt after a long moment, is if you cage match and just go back and forth. Okay,
let's go cage match. Let's fucking do it. Cage match.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about insanity.
Rob.
Insanity is the guy that wants to preemptively nuclear strike any country that he's afraid might develop nuclear weapons at some time.
No.
Keep his story straight. A warmonger like Kevin, he couldn't leave me just develop my position. I tried to be polite and ask him questions to point out in a way of leaving him have a chance to respond and set out his position, how stupid it would be. But he can't stop interrupting me just like every time that I talk to him. So he wants to do this cage match.
You're missing it,
thirsty Kevin, who's supporting military industrial complex in every fucking nonsense war that they have, now wants to do so with nuclear weapons. That's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to do.
You're somebody who literally... You're somebody who literally is content to let the Kim regime rule the Korean Peninsula in perpetuity, perhaps 8-10 million years of absolute horrible misery under that regime for all those people. And you're willing to sit back and wait for them to get enough nukes that going forward for the rest of time, we won't be able to intervene, just as we can't intervene in Russia right now.
The neocons get more fucking insane every day. We need to launch nuclear weapons today, or there'll be 10 million years of destruction.
You absolute.
Oh, Rob is so funny. I mean, he's right. Like, Kevin's point is absolutely ridiculous. Like, as if at any point, the Kim regime is going to rule the Korean Peninsula. That's just nonsensical. That would never happen. I don't think even China would give North Korea backup in those instances for them to be able to have the power with to engage in a full-scale invasion of South Korea. That's just not going to happen. And the idea that he would just think they're somehow going to spread Jucheism across the whole of the Korean Peninsula and cause a reign of terror. It's just absolute nonsense. Yeah, exactly. Would he start bombing Would he bomb France if Mélenchon got into power? Like, why is by that, as I said, by that same point, why is he not bombing Nepal? Why is he not bombing Laos? Why is he not bombing Cuba? Why is he not bombing I said the Republic of the Congo? Angola. Why is North Korea his specific target, right?
God, it'll be a
Clown
nightmare.
pilled,
You can't even
jester
believe
pilled
they're going to take
goober
over Meta
who would
too.
sit
We'll
back
be playing
and
Dark
try
Souls 12 under
diplomacy
the boot of
with
the
a
Kim
regime
if we don't
that
nuke
is
them right now,
literally
goddamn.
bragging
We
your
have to nuke
face
them right now.
that they took
Trust us,
advantage
it'll
of
work out.
you
Look at us.
and that
Brought
they
to you
had
by
no
the same
intention
people that
of
lied to you
honoring
about
the
Afghanistan
terms
for 20 years.
of
Brought
their
to you by
original
them.
agreements. They
Drop the nukes,
sorry,
right, Kevin?
Doc.
Get them, get
They
them.
did
Why
this in
don't
the
you?
freaking
Like, you
Hanoi
know Dr.
summit.
Strangelove
They took
tunnel? Why don't you
Trump to
ride
the
the bomb
cleaners.
down on them, right,
And
Kevin?
now you
Right?
can't
Is that
wait
what
to
you're
get
gonna
taken
do? Right?
to the cleaners
Mr.
by
fucking
now.
Chicken Hawk,
Because
never
you're
saw
an
war he didn't
absolute
like, but won't go fight himself.
100%
Mr. fucking neocon.
isolationist,
Here we go.
clueless,
Woo!
rock
Drop the nukes,
dwelling,
Kevin. Come on, come on.
Neanderthalic,
Where else are we gonna nuke? I'll tell you this
goober-pilled
much. I'll tell you this much.
jester,
If the Canadian
and,
hockey
you,
team
and you're
beats
an
us again,
embarrassment.
maybe it's time
You're
to
an
get the nukes out.
embarrassment to the
We're looking
United
at a
States,
million years
honestly,
of
because
losing
it's
to the
your
Canadian hockey
country,
team in the
because
Olympics.
it's your
A million
country that's in
years,
the
for God's
firing
sakes.
site
Don't worry,
of
their
the
hockey
fall
players are
of their
below the
strategic
earth.
capability.
I just hate the worst thing about Kevin Castley is his American exceptionalism. Like, we got into a Twitter fight. Like, he posted pictures of like Soviet architecture and saying everything about communism is ugly and all it produces is ugly buildings. I was just like, well, hang on a minute. Like, have you seen the Moscow subway? Have you seen places like Karuba and the actual new genuinely nice city design that you get from like Slotsgorod, etc. And I was like, oh, look at the Rockefeller building. I'm like, of all the buildings you could have picked to present your case for capitalist architecture being good, you choose the Rockefeller building, fucking ugly an ugly like huge like lump of concrete skyscraper. Looks fucking repulsive from the outside. Like there's so many like actually good pieces of capitalist architecture you could have chosen, but it just shows like how fundamentally in our like I mean like his words, Neanderthalic. Well, not absolute Philistine these capitalists are. They can't even recognize good architecture when they see it. When you could look at places like places in Denmark or places in Barcelona was genuinely good urban architecture from from nominally capitalist enterprises, right? There's so many good examples he could have chosen, and he chose the fucking Rockefeller building. God, it's such a fucking maniac. And he just won't accept that America just isn't a good country. And I mean, people might call me out for being like some kind of European exceptionalism, but I do love, the kind of city streets that you get in Amsterdam or Copenhagen, Barcelona or something. Things are beautiful, much better than fucking ugly as shit urban sprawl garbage you get in American suburbs, in rancid shit that he thinks looks good or is desirable.
Capability, it's your cities are going to vaporize, Rob. Probably not mine, but only going to be your cities they vaporize, Rob. Probably going to be your town, Rob. How does that make you feel, Rob? How cucked is that, Rob? That you would literally, carry water for a regime that's trying to get literally thousands of nuclear weapons, have the capability to destroy the entirety of your country. And you're sitting here saying, oh, well, haven't done it yet, so they won't do it in the future. That is monumentally reliant on a profoundly dumb set of assumptions, a profoundly dumb set of assumptions that you.
Also, in general, there'd be no reason for North Korea to launch a preemptive strike themselves because they know they have like no missile defense in the case of a retaliatory strike.
Trust an insane lunatic and his family to never nuke you for the next 10 million years.
Okay, done. Okay, cage match is done. Okay.
So true, Amity Island. So true. If that conversation on Twitter with them had gone any longer, I'd be like, hang on, let's have a look at the nicest buildings in Ouagadougou, right? Actually nice buildings built by the socialist regime or a socialist government, right? There's plenty of lovely buildings to get from socialism. The fact he chose like the fucking ugliest shit from America. I mean, is there any good architecture in America? I've not seen any good architecture in America. All the best architecture is in Europe and Africa, as far as I'm concerned.
That's one cage match used, Kevin. I think you have one more, and Rob, you have two. So you can continue.
Yeah. So anyways, making the point, so you can see how his point doesn't make sense, right? And he talks about lunatics and bloodthirsty shit. Like, that's exactly what he is. That's exactly what his position is, right? Yes, he would have been telling, I bet if we were talking to him 5-10 years ago, he would have been saying, we got to nuke them now, because if we don't, within 10 years, they could have developed these nuclear weapons and could, the Korean Peninsula will be taken over and they'll be developing, or they'll be launching nuclear strikes in the United States. And then that's what he'll be saying 20 years from now, too, if it doesn't occur then.
Nukes 10 years ago.
that's what he'll be saying. And listen, he already gave the rationale for why we should have nuked the Soviet Union before they developed nuclear weapons. There's no reason that same rationale won't apply to every time a country thinks that they're going to develop nuclear weapons. Kevin will be saying, well, we have to use nuclear weapons. We have to.
And likewise from that same thing, if the Soviet Union had developed nuclear weapons first, should they have launched nuclear weapons on the US to stop them from having nuclear capabilities in the future? Like I said, he starts from this blanket position that he has, and that the US just should be the world police, right? That they should be the people who get to decide who does and who doesn't get to have nuclear arsenals, and is willing to use his own nuclear arsenal to police their ability to have one in the first place.
To use these sorts of things. And it's nonsense. And what you've done is you've given the justification. This is the same type of shit that the neocons did right now with the situation with Russia, right? When we had the neocons in the United States, which then we saw Obama and the left pick up the torch, right? When they started to say, it's okay for us to go into Syria, it's okay for us to go into Iraq, it's okay for us to go into Libya, other countries listen. And eventually, if we aren't able to keep up with them, right, if we don't have enough of hegemony to be able to stop them, whether hard or soft power, which it appears we don't right now, they'll start saying we can play that game too. So once Russia says we have to use a tactical nuclear weapon against an ally of the United States against Ukraine because we were worried that with the help of the United States, they would develop WMDs and challenge us, what will Kevin be there to say? So I hope you all enjoy World War III.
No, I can answer.
True, that's so true from Rob there. He's calling Kevin straight up for his bullshit, his American exceptionist bullshit. He's absolutely right. That literally all of Kevin's argumentation here could be used from Russia to justify nuking Ukraine right now. That's exactly the same rhetoric that Kevin's using.
And real quick, I'll finish. As Einstein said, he said, I don't know with what weapons World War III will be fought with, but I know what World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. So Kevin, if he was in charge, that's the world you're looking at, a nuclear holocaust, because he so flippantly wants to fucking bomb people with nuclear weapons preemptively if we think that they're developing nuclear weapons that will
you missed the whole point, Rob. I can
True, based and true from Rob.
I can actually answer that question about Ukraine because I've already said it on Twitter and on my show. Ukraine's lost. That's an L for Obama and for Biden. It's an L for the people that live there. I'm not sure.
It's not true. Actually, it's definitely not lost already. The Russian attack is being repelled everywhere apart from Mariupol in the south. And there's fighting going on in Kharkiv at the moment, but I've been following it pretty closely. I've not been talking about it on stream because I don't really want to. But yeah, actually, the Russians are being repelled pretty well. I guess this was 2 days ago, so things have developed since, right? But Kyiv and Lviv, even in the Donbass, things have held. The lines have been held pretty well. It's just the troops arriving in from Crimea have made gains into places like Melitopol, etc.
Starting a shooting war with Russia. They called the liberal internationalist bluff. That's an L for the liberal internationalists. If I was in charge, I would have put troops there before Putin invaded, and there'd be peace today. But I'm not getting into a nuclear war with Russia.
But if you put troops there before they invade, they would have been more likely to invade, right? They would have seen that as an act of aggression by NATO, and NATO expand. Literally, that would have triggered war way before now.
For Ukraine. So you can try to imply that I would. The only scenario, the only case in the world right now where nuclear weapons are appropriate as a preemptive means is against North Korea. I mean, Iran's trying to get nukes. I'm not suggesting that with Iran because their stuff is nowhere near as buried as with North Korea. They can be taken out with conventional means. Look, I'll tell you this. If I was convinced that there was a conventional way to deal with North Korea, then I would suggest doing that, which you would also oppose because you're just against first strikes in general. I have a question for you, though, which is you mentioned Obama wanted to go into Iraq or whatever. I'm guessing you're talking
true and based me against first strikes. The true and based anti-interventionism.
About Operation Inherent Resolve, the fight against ISIS and everything. Do you think it was wrong for the United States to fight ISIS in Syria and Iraq, Rob? Is that what you mean to suggest?
Well, first off, Iraq, the original invasion of it, we were told that we stuck around to fight ISIS, but the original invasion was, babies and incubators and shit like that. That was a lie. Of course,
that was Bush. That was in Obama.
You asked me a question, so I'll explain. Obama continued the wars that we saw under Bush, right? At first, the reason we had to go in the first place was because fucking maniacs like you actually supported Saddam Hussein when he was in his 20s and instilled him, just like you always do, just like supporting the Mujahideen, and then you say 20 years.
Fucking true. Oh my god, based Rob Noor. He knows the shit. He knows it right down. It was Carter who initially armed the Mujahideen to oppose the PDPA in Afghanistan. And if they'd not done that, then there wouldn't have been the reason for a Soviet invasion again. Obviously, the Soviet Union shouldn't have invaded either. That was, again, Soviet imperialism, because both imperial powers felt like that they should be the ones to decide the future of Afghanistan, rather than leave it to the actual population, right? Which the Mujahideen probably would have come out on top against the military force of the PDPA because they're fighting in rural areas mostly, but it was the both imperial powers using the neutral territory of Afghanistan to fight Cold War proxy wars again, which is the fault of people like Castley in the first place that caused that shit, right? Come on.
later, oh, we got to go into Afghanistan to fight Al Qaeda. You support Saddam Hussein, then say, oh, we got to go in there to fight Saddam Hussein. That's the kind of shit that these neocon warmongers do over and over and over. They think wrong and a disaster, but they create problems that they then say, oh, well, now you have to rely on us to solve the problem that we created. If you were in charge, the situation in Russia and Ukraine would be even worse because you would have escalated even sooner. Now, particularly to Syria, right? Like when I debate people all the time, fine. If our argument was we're in Syria to fight ISIS, then why weren't we working with the Assad regime that was attempting to fight ISIS?
Oh, come on. Assad killed about 15 times as many people as ISIS.
We
Assad
weren't just there
gassed
to
his
fight
own
ISIS.
people.
Gotcha. You're bullshitting us.
Assad is a butcher. Bashar the Butcher is a butcher who makes ISIS look like kindergarten teachers in comparison. He makes them look like nurses in comparison. Assad has exacted brutality against the people of Syria in such a way that ISIS could never even dream of. ISIS killed 30,000 people. Bashar the Butcher's forced 8 million people to flee their homes, a country of 27 million people, and he's killed hundreds of thousands of people. He's gassed people. He is a menace. But working with Assad against ISIS is like working with Hitler against Stalin. Dude, you're on the wrong side of history, my dude. You gotta check yourself. This is fucking batshit. Now, to your point about
million years of Assad.
I'm not knowledgeable enough about the Syria conflict for my own, to my own detriment. I am not educated enough about Syria to be able to make a comment on that issue. Geopolitics isn't usually my my area of expertise. So
to your point about how the neocons helped the Mujahideen and that created this big problem or whatever. No, it actually didn't. The problem in Afghanistan was that the Soviets occupied the country, killed 2 million people. All this bullshit.
Wrong. You were funding the Mujahideen first. Let's be real. Like, to be fair, the Soviet Union installed Babrak Karmal, but it's complicated. But no, the first thing to happen in that country was Jimmy Carter arming the Mujahideen in the first instance, right?
Crap. The least that America could do was to support the Afghan people and those that stood in solidarity with them, go over there and fight them. And guess what? They were successful. And you know what that helped to do? It helped to bankrupt a regime, the Soviet Empire, the Communist Empire, a regime that I'm guessing you personally would not like to live under. I mean, you don't really strike me as a communist, Rob. So why are you on the communist side in Afghanistan? Why wouldn't you support the Afghan people overthrowing the...
It's literally, that's all it is. That's all it is to him. It's just everyone else versus communism. Doesn't matter how many people die, how many soldiers have to be sent, how many interventionist wars have to be fought. As long as he's opposing communism, he thinks that's a reasonable justification for bloodshed.
Yoke of their oppressors. I don't get that. The Mujahideen were heroes.
Okay, so again, first, you can see how simplistic the warmonger nuclear first strike mind is.
True.
Obviously, if you're against interventionism, then you must support terrible people and things like that. It's childish. It's fucking
consequence
stupid.
of
It's the same sorts of arguments that you always see these people make. You must be pro-Putin if you're against interventions in Ukraine and Syria, etc. It's such fucking stupid. It's
the consequence is pro-Putin.
You can see.
I don't care about your feelings. The consequence is pro-Putin, dude.
You know how this works? You want to use your other cage match so I get your fucking stupid ass 10 million year interruptions out of the way now? Or are you gonna let me finish my point? Okay,
dude.
thank you. I take that as you're going to leave me finish my point.
Yeah, no.
Well,
I think you're full of shit, bro.
Well, Kevin, you do got to let him finish his point, though, unless you want to use your other case.
Okay.
Rob?
Okay, so second, you can see, right, how he even tries to go, well, isn't it a good thing we want in Syria because of ISIS, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as you push back, you say, of course we're challenging Assad there as well. Of course he's a terrible person. Right. Isn't it interesting how the neocons and the warmongers always pick and choose what terrible people? They're more happy to support the Assads, right, in their Yemen bombing campaign, more than happy to support ISIS when they were overthrowing Gaddafi in Libya, right? They're more than happy to all of a sudden pile up to all sorts of horrible, tyrannical people when it benefits them, right? But then they try to shame you and say, well, we have to go in these countries if there's tyrannical maniacs that are running these sorts of countries. Okay, that's Russia's argument in Ukraine. They saw that there was a coup from the same people that you support in 2013, 2014. We have Victoria Nuland on the phone talking about installing Poroshenko in 2014. We know that we also, the United States State Department also supported military extremists.
Installing Poroshenko.
Right,
Yanukovych was a dictator installed by Putin, dude.
So I'm going to just keep talking. If you want
Classic projection.
We'll let him finish. I'll give you time to respond, Kevin.
So anyways, the point is this, right? We see that there's all this warmongering that goes on. We could go through the crimes of the U.S. State Department intel agency and stuff is a litany that we could go through. But the point is this, right? If we now give these people the ability to say, and also we're going to use military nuclear first strikes, it's an absolute disaster. There are other solutions other than that. This sort of rhetoric on Korea being as bad as they are, anything could happen. Kim Jong-il could die. Kim Jong-un could die of a fucking heart attack tomorrow. And we don't know what exactly his family or the person that takes over will do. This is better than killing millions of people with nuclear weapons and
How would Kim Jo... what's the fucking sister's name? I forget. It's Kim Jo something. How is she going to be any worse than Kim Jong Un? I really don't see it, Kevin. I really don't see it.
The precedent to our enemies that they will develop more weapons of mass destruction and have a policy of first use, because you have proven to the world, if you do this, if we think that it's our only option, we will use nuclear weapons preemptively against you. It will lead to World War III and it will lead to a nuclear fallout. That's what would happen.
True.
Okay, so there's a lot to go over there. So you talked about how Newland, oh, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. You must like watching Russia Today from 2016. You sound like Peter Lavelle, Manewland. Here's the deal. Here's the deal about Poroshenko. Viktor Yanukovych was a brute. He was a thug. He was a gangster. He was a dude who said he literally released criminals from prisons. He gave them guns and paid them to go up on rooftops over the Maidan Square and start shooting innocent feminists, innocent liberals, innocent anti-corruption activists that were protesting against the fascist regime that was a puppet of Vladimir Putin. That, of course, was Viktor Yanukovych and the Party of Regents. They were successful in overthrowing that yoke, and guess what? They got their own country. Petro Poroshenko was actually a leader.
Yanukovych and Poroshenko were different sides of different coins, I guess, but you cannot say in any sense of the word that Zelensky is illegitimate as president of Ukraine, the guy who was overwhelmingly elected in a free and fair landslide election, right? Again, I'm not sure. Like, you can't. It's difficult to have conversations with people like Poroshenko and Yanukovych, but Zelensky, at this point in time specifically, right? Zelensky is the most legitimate leader of Ukraine for since Timoshenko.
He was actually a leader representative of Ukraine. He was actually a sovereign leader. He wasn't beholden to Putin. And to say, oh, America just installed something. No. There was a democracy that was established in Ukraine. Poroshenko was chosen. Obviously, Zelensky now is the successor of that. Viktor Yanukovych, on the other hand, what did he do? He'd break your knees if you lobbied against him, that sort of stuff. He literally had his goons throw acid in the face of his political opponents. So you talk about this as if it's a democracy. No, I'm not done. I'm not done, Rob. Unless you want to use your cage match. I'm not done.
Just won't listen anyways. Go ahead.
Yeah, and to the point about the neo.
So, like, the idea that nukes could end in a crisis of the foreign power comes from the myth that nuclear was anything justified or useful. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Amity Island. The fact that they were used and can be used as a justification moving forward for trying to end global conflicts using nuclear means, it's the phony arguments that it's justified or was necessary in those cases is being kind of projected onto future ideas of preliminary strikes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. As for the specific instance of what happened in Japan, obviously there was no reason for nukes being used, but it's one of those kind of Titanic lifeboat scenarios where you kind of look back on it and say that how many nuclear warheads with drastically higher blast yields might theoretically have been used if small nuclear warheads hadn't been used on Japan at the time. Obviously there's plenty of criticisms about the way in which people like General Leahy used specific means to try and target civilian areas, which is fucking disgusting. But, there's always a what if, right? There's always the what if theoretically at some point during the Cold War, something, hundreds of times as powerful as the Fat Man had been dropped anywhere between the warring East-West blocks. How much more damage that theoretically could have caused, but it's difficult. But of course, there was no actual justification for the use of nuclear weapons in Japan.
The neocons. I'm not even a neocon. I'm a liberal. I'm a liberal hawk. I'm not a conservative. I'm a liberal unilateralist. You can talk all this stuff about Wolfowitz and you can talk about Crystal and everything. I'm not those guys. I have a decent amount of agreement with them. But look, you're talking to a liberal hawk here. You're talking to somebody who is.
Well, he's literally just a neocon who doesn't hate gay people. That's literally it. That's his only position that he has. He's fucking he wants to have sex with Hillary Clinton. That's his political.
You're talking to somebody who has. Willing to speak the truth in North Korea in a way that a lot of people are afraid to do because they're afraid of how polite society might find it odd or whatever. Because here's the thing, 30% of the people get this right now, and there's nobody in mainstream media that's even...
18 minutes left in this match, okay? Just letting you guys know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just with Kevin rambling.
I'm almost finished. So there's 30% of people that support my position, and we don't even have anybody in the lamestream media that's saying any of this. Now, can you imagine if they actually had a voice? How many people would wake up and realize that for North Korea, this is about us. This is about our own safety, and we need to get rid of that vile regime before they get rid of us. Rob.
Okay, so for example,
there's just no evidence they're going to try and get rid of you. It just isn't.
He talks about how it wasn't a coup when we installed what we want. A coup doesn't have to be that that democracy doesn't exist. You could use color revolutions and things like that to convince pluralities of the population through all sorts of nefarious means to vote for the people that you want installed. And we see that the United States specifically chose Poroshenko. That's who they wanted. I feel bad for the people of Ukraine because they've constantly been in this sort of proxy battle between Russia and the United States since the formation of the country in the early 90s. It's constantly been that they have a puppet that's going with Russia or a puppet. There was another sort of coup. What did they call it? Like the Tulip Revolution or the Orange Revolution that occurred in 2003 and 2004. Now, he talks specifically about how Poroshenko was this good guy and Zelensky's the successor of him. Can you explain then why the Zelensky government tried to imprison Poroshenko, which is what they tried to do? Now, I'd stop and let you answer, but you're incapable of giving a brief answer. You'll just ramble on for fucking 5 minutes. So I'll keep talking and you can choose to answer it if you want. But the reality is we see that our State Department and our intelligence agencies aren't the noble people that Kevin will have you believe. They constantly decide to work with dictators and decide to work with brutal people when they think that it benefits them in some way. And then they selectively point out the ones that they say, this person's uniquely brutal. And so therefore we're justified in doing a color revolution or doing bombings or things like that.
And to be fair to Kevin here, like Yanukovych did imprison Tymoshenko to stop her beating him in the election, right? So I mean, it is what it is. But again, that doesn't that doesn't change the legitimacy of the Zelensky government.
And there he goes. He can't. Right. There. He can't.
Should read
Just can't. Right. So anything to justify the preemptive strike of nuclear weapons because we're stopping 10 million years of tyranny. 10 million years. I'm glad that you're becoming even more hyperbolic. You say that you're not a neocon. That's fine. I know that a lot of leftists are taking up the mantle of the neocons once carried. Some of the leftists that were the most anti-war people that I know. Now support wars as long as people on their side are for them. This sort of escalation is what provokes countries from saying that we need to militarize and we need to posture and saber rattle, etc. because we are worried.
What leftists have been saber rattling? Does Rob just think anyone like to the left of Pinochet is somehow a leftist? When I think describing Kevin as a neocon is not exactly far away from the right. Someone says, "Well, I'm not a neocon, I'm a liberal." That means that Rob just thinks that somehow means he's a leftist. I don't know. Rob just doesn't know much about politics.
That these first strikes are going to come and things like that. The fact that you're even discussing doing this with North Korea, let's say that it happened. Like if it happened in the next week or so, or the next 6 months, that we decided to nuclear first strike North Korea and wipe them off the map. What do you think Russia's thinking now in this context? What do you think China's thinking?
Well, now they're actually scared of America. Now they take America seriously, Rob.
I'm going to keep
now
talking.
They take America seriously, Rob. You just asked me a question. Now they take America seriously.
You always see this.
Okay.
You see this.
I'll give you another 15 seconds, Rob. Okay.
Right. Chicken hawks like Kevin that will want you and your kids to go to war.
Okay.
You know what? I'll use the cage match. We're almost out of time. I'll use the cage match. Let's go. Yeah, you call me a fucking chicken hawk. You call me a fucking chicken hawk. Dude, you're not willing to go and live in any of these regimes that you defend. You wouldn't live. You wouldn't last a day under Gaddafi. You wouldn't last a day under Saddam Hussein. You wouldn't last a day under Kim Jong-un. You would not last. You wouldn't last an hour in the gulags over there. Yet here you are, sitting at your desk, privileged in the heart of the first world, privileged in the heart of the first world, doing stupid memes in service of dictators, that would have you tortured and executed if you were unfortunate.
Yeah, no one takes America. It's true. No one takes America seriously. I was like, "Oh, you wouldn't last a day in under Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi." I was like, "I probably wouldn't last a day in fucking Texas either, mate." Like, come on. As if he's like some sort about America's like the bastion of the free world when they have laws mandating the imprisonment of parents who have transgender children, right? Like, come on. I'm very glad I live in Europe at this point.
If you were unfortunate enough to actually be born there, and you're fine to condemn swaths of people, hundreds of millions of people, to perpetual tyranny under tyrants that would literally execute you and your family for espousing any of the views that you hold about libertarianism or liberty or any of that sort of stuff. It's a complete and total embarrassment. It's an utter embarrassment. You should.
Yeah, he doesn't need. He's not arguing that he wants to live in North Korea. Just that we shouldn't bomb them. Why is I just don't get this Evan Castley person. Just crazy. Like unless you would want to live under Kim Jong-un, you shouldn't. That means that is the only thing that you should say if you don't want to fucking into a preemptive nuclear strike. True, I'm
should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. The fact that you've got the American flag in the background, yet you're content to shell for regimes that literally aim nukes at your country, at your family, at your town, at your friends. They're aiming hydrogen bombs, they're aiming fission bombs, they're aiming chemical weapons at you, they're subverting your democracy, they are expansionists, they are revisionists, they are
wow, of all of the people, the fucking interventionist warhawk Kevin Castley, right, trying to talk about undermining countries' democracies. What a fucking hypocrite. Jesus.
And when
And
called
they are
out on
going
it, all
to
you can do is
bury
just
you,
ramble on and
and
on
they
and
are
say,
going to
you
have
don't
the
care about the
world,
poor people of
and
insert
they're
country
going
that
to
you don't give a
bring
fuck about
about
either.
the
You don't
downfall
give a
of
fuck. If you
everything
gave a fuck,
that
you'd
we
be there.
believe
You
in,
wouldn't be
such
waiting
as
for the United
freedom.
States. If you give a fuck,
And
get your
you
boots
are
over there,
content
right? But
to
you won't
wash
do it.
their
And you call the
balls,
cage match
and you are
because, you know,
content
you
to
never
rub
shut
their
up. This is every
backs
time I debate
and
you, it's
lick
the
their
same fucking sort of
feet
thing.
and
Just
do
your
all
fucking
manner of
warmongering,
dictator
insane bullshit that
apologetics
you
for
repeat
them,
over and over and over
because
again.
to
You have to
you,
constantly
war is
interject
the
and talk
worst
over people
evil
because you're such a
of all
weak-willed man.
time.
That you're
But
like,
living under fascism
you're like
for
the guy with the little
millions of
PP or something,
generations
right?
in
Like, oh, I
perpetuity with
just don't
no
have
hope.
confidence, so
Well,
I have
that's
to
not
put on
that
a fake
bad, but war
bravado.
bad.
Like
No,
somehow
I
that
got
means that
news,
I'm doing
dude.
something. I sound
War
better
is
when
a
I'm constantly interrupting
surgery.
people.
War
You
is a
sound like an asshole.
surgery. It is
Go
a
over there, then,
temporary
Kevin. Go
surgery
over. Why
to
won't you, Mr.
rectify
Chicken
the
Hawk? Why won't you?
tumor
You think this is an
of
intelligent conversation?
fascism.
You think this is good?
And
You're
the
the one
fact
who
that you
wanted to
would
do this. You
rather
wanted to
live.
Difficult for me to be able to respond to points that are being garbled over each other, but it's fun to watch.
just talk
Well,
over
you
me the
wouldn't
whole
live.
time.
You
It's
won't be
fucking
there
worthless.
because
So
you're
I'll
a
just go
coward
through
and
the
you don't
cage
have
match
the
like
balls
how
to go and
you're a
live under
fucking
any of
chicken
these
hawk,
regimes
right?
that
I
you
don't have to go
defend.
there because I live in the United States.
You'd
You're
rather
the
lick
one
their
who's saying that
boots
we
from
should
afar
involve.
like an
This is one of the
absolute
dumbest,
chicken
most
loser
childish
and a
fucking
pigeon
stupid
pill.
arguments I've
Okay,
ever
Pill
heard.
Chester Pill Goober.
wait,
Chester
okay.
Pill Goober.
Goober. Okay. So it's my favorite Kevin insult, Goober. Okay. So
I know, right? It's a
that's
banger.
Watch a SpongeBob movie, huh?
It's a flipping banger, bro, and you know it.
okay.
Mhm.
So that was the end of Kevin's cage match. Now return to normal moderation. We have about 12 minutes left in the match.
Okay, so I'll finish up what I was going to say. It's one of the, like, not only is Kevin just a bloodthirsty chicken hawk warmonger, right? And his arguments are stupid, but he can't even follow the logical
Hey,
progression
Kevin.
of, like, there he goes interrupting again, right? He can't even follow directions in a debate, and he can't even follow the logical progression of ideas, right? So he says this. He says, I think that we should nuke people. I think that we should go to war in all these places. And I'm like, well, then why don't you go? And you say, well, you're a coward because you won't go live in the places that I'm
Wait.
saying we should bomb because of the. That's one of the dumbest fucking arguments I've ever
You
heard. You're
think
still a
you
I
coward.
mean, he's right. Like the idea that just because you want to live somewhere means that we should bomb it is garbage. It's just completely nonsensical. But also Rob like saying that if you want to go to war with them, then you should go and put on an army vest and go and fight. Right? That's not a reasonable argument either. If people sign up to the military under the knowledge that they might get sent off to fight, that's not Kevin's real purview as someone who wants to posture about geopolitical acts. That's I don't think that necessarily tracks. It's like saying you want the government to house homeless people, so why isn't there one sleeping in your living room? That's not a reasonable argument. But Rob is absolutely correct in pointing out this idea that saying that if you don't want to bomb if you don't want to live under the dictator, then you should be okay with bombing them. That's like make any fucking sense.
Like the second I joined the military.
Wait.
Let me finish,
I will
you
give you time to
fucking
respond, Kevin.
loser.
Fascism is when government do stuff I don't like. That's also communism, apparently.
Sack of shit.
No, you, Rob.
Warmongering, nuclear first strike pushing, fucking warmongering chicken hawk asshole. Let me finish there, Mr. So I'm somehow doing. If you cared about
well,
these
that's what you
people,
are, dude.
Wait,
you're
you gotta-
gonna try to shame me and say I don't care about the people or I would move there. Well, you don't care about them, or you would go there and fight, even if there wasn't a nuclear first strike. You fucking loser. You always see this with these chicken hawks, right? They try to
fail.
make this moral case, but they're absolved from it. They're not gonna go. Their kids aren't gonna go. We need wars all across the fucking world. All across the world, but not him. He's not gonna go. Fuck him. Fuck this warmongering bullshit. You're the reason that we have so many of these foreign policy issues around the world. And every time that you're proven wrong.
Let's so say for example, right? So let's flip this on its head. Say for example that China thought, well, hang on a minute, we're the Chinese Communist Party. We believe that Dengism, Dengists, Dengist state capitalism or whatever is the theoretical greatest ideology that we should be spreading to as many countries as possible because people who live in liberal democracies are sick because of the rampant individualism that has led to the downfall of society and the rise of far right identitarianism or whatever, right? Say that China thought that and said, well, we're going to have to invade. We're going to have to bomb America and invade and overthrow their government because we find that the exhibition of or the inflation of capitalist oligarchs in these countries has led to the deterioration of the working class of America, right? Say, for example, that Xi Jinping thought that and went to war with America. Kevin would think that would be justified from their point of view, right? And saying that, well, our system is better than yours, so we should invade you and take you out, right? I think dictators are bad too, but that the idea that if you think you have the superior ideology or the superior, economic system or the superior state apparatus, right, that you should be able to just take out any ones that you don't like and usurp them and replace them. That could lead that same that same logic could be applied to literally any other state and you, which just leads to more wars, right? If everyone follows this insane logic.
Oh,
I
you just
I'm a
act like
pod villain,
how much
bro. I'm a
babies and
Captain
Wait.
Planet
incubators
villain.
going?
Ooh.
Wait, you
How much
gotta.
babies and incubators going there, Kevin?
Okay. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. So you said, oh, but you won't. So you want to do a nuclear first strike on North Korea, but you're not going to go and join the military and do it. So you think I'm more powerful than Joe Biden? You think I'm more powerful than Justin Trudeau? You think the second I enlist as a private in the army, we get to nuke North Korea? If that was the case, and that took out that regime, and we just liberated 25 million people and took out a regime that's been a menace to the world for decades, killed 8 million people since 1948, did a war aiming to do more wars in the future to take over territory, and me simply enlisting in the military would solve that problem, and I get what I want. I would join in a heartbeat. The fact of the matter is, we live in a political culture right now where me joining the military won't do anything because we've been infested with people
Someone in Dylan's chat saying, yeah, all the liberated people that have died in the nuclear fallout.
like you. I'm not going to pretend like you alone are responsible for this the way that you think that I'm responsible for all these wars. I mean, you must think I'm more powerful than Ronald Reagan. You must think I'm more powerful than Joe Biden. It's kind of flattering, honestly, Rob. No, it's not just you. It's millions of people like you that have been brainwashed by Russian propaganda and other fascist
Yeah,
propaganda.
literally by whatever Kevin's saying here, as soon as nuclear testing had been finished in Nova Zemlya, then Khrushchev should just preemptively struck the US to spread communism to the United States, right? It's insane.
Yeah, to basically do the America first. Oh, who cares about foreign babies? All that sort of stuff.
I mean, obviously, like you're absolutely right, Mr. Allen, that it's rank hypocrisy for America saying that they've been other regimes spread menaces to the world, right? But again, from the other people's perspective, that's what America have been doing. So that means that, with the same logic, that would justify their preemptive strike against the US. It's the same logic.
Stuff. Look, the fact of the matter is, the culture that has been inculcated in the West in the era of cringe, as I call it, the last 10 years, is such that if I join the military, it's not going to make a difference. But if I use my platform and social media, which I do, to change people's minds and get people thinking about this stuff, well, now we're actually doing a lot more for.
I think what we should actually do is preemptively nuclear strike Kevin Castley's house, theoretically, satirically in the video game Minecraft. We should do that in Minecraft. So that, theoretically in the future, when Kevin might become some member of the state apparatus in the United States, he might then nuke North Korea. And that's a preemptive strike that we're doing on the understanding that there is the possibility that he might use nukes in the future. So in Minecraft, theoretically, we should nuke Kevin Castley's house.
For the cause of world liberation, world liberalism, world human rights, world sexual freedom, world women's empowerment, all that stuff. Me doing push-ups at a base in Canada isn't going to do anything, right? And if it did, I would join. If it did, I would join. If there was an agreement that I join and we go and we take out Kim, I would join. But that's not going to happen, and you know it. So cool concern trolling, Rob. How about you get an actual serious talking point, you fucking
Right, I did have serious talking points, which you did everything you could to not let me speak unfettered and constantly try to interrupt. Then you want to do a cage match and call me cool words like a goober. Talk about 10 million
You
years.
can use your cage
10
matches.
million years, 10 million years of the.
I'm going to sign up to the Danish army, and I'm going to convince them to invade the United States, take them over and turn them into a social democracy, liberate them from the heels of the capitalist oligarchs.
Jong-un regime. My God, they'll develop nanotech and he'll live forever. You fucking idiot, right?
Well,
And again, it's the same. It's the same shit, right? So two things to say here, right? No, he's not going to go because it personally won't help, but he'll send your kids, right? And he says, no, I'm just talking about a nuclear first strike. No, he's not. Listen to his full positions. In Korea, he wants to use nukes. What do you want to do in Afghanistan? Would you say 10,000 troops should have stayed there? What's he want to do in all these situations? Please,
100,000.
you're incapable of answing. You're incapable of
No, I
answering.
just answered your
in a fair
question,
way. Right,
100,000.
you're interrupting again. So shut
No,
the fuck
I'm
up.
literally
Okay?
answering your question,
Shut the
100,000.
fuck up.
It seems like a
Shut the
rhetorical
fuck up.
question. We'll let him continue.
So anyways, right, like, so he wants these sorts of things all over. But notice it's selective. He's not talking about Saudi Arabia. When are we invading? When are we invading Saudi Arabia? He isn't talking about that. He isn't talking about
But
a bunch
that's
of
such
other
a
US
meme.
allies.
Let him finish.
True. Yeah, he's saying liberating the people of North Korea. Why is he not liberating the people of Yemen right now? Oh no, because we like it when our allies bomb people. It's only when people we don't like can bomb them.
He's talking about all these other U.S. allies, people that we have working relationships with, right? That do terrible things to their population. He's very selective in who.
Why would you invade your allies before your enemies?
Please shut the fuck up. Please shut the fuck up.
Why would you invade anyone, Kevin? Why would you? It's almost like your ideology doesn't make any fucking sense.
Why would you invade them before your enemies?
What we would do is use the fact that there are allies to no longer be allies with them if there are these humane monsters that you're talking about, right? Like the regime in Saudi Arabia.
That makes no sense.
You
They're
claim to
useful
be a liberal,
allies.
and yet they execute
No.
people in Saudi Arabia.
You can't
Now
go to war
shut
with the
fuck
world
up.
at
I'm gonna
once.
finish my point.
No, you.
Yeah,
No,
we
you, Rob.
gotta let him
Yes,
finish his
I can
point. Okay,
I
I'll
can
give
say
him another
whatever
20
the fuck
seconds.
I want. Kevin, who just wants to go off on 10-minute monologues and then interrupt anytime I'm trying to talk. I tried to do this. Everyone saw how I tried to start the debate, to ask you simple questions, and then you would just expound on and on and on. Then before I even got a chance to speak, you were like, let's have a cage match. Just shut the fuck up. If this is how it's going to be done, this is
Rob North is being out monologued.
how it's going to be done. You selectively choose. You say, well, they're our allies, so we're okay with them killing gay people. We're okay with the human rights abuse in Saudi Arabia. That's fine. We're okay with that. Why would we invade them? As long as we're, well, I guess then why not just become allies with the Kim regime? Mr. Genius, right? But the point is, you
Trump
on one,
tried,
you
you
talk out both sides of your mouth. On one hand, you say these people are so heinous that we need to go to war with them, but we could be allies with heinous people as long as we think that it benefits us in some way.
Kevin?
Okay. Yeah, no, so I've actually got a video.
Don't you see? We had to do the World Trade Center. If we didn't do a preliminary strike against them, they might have invaded the Middle East to spread their regime. True.
My channel Superpower Broadcasting called What About Saudi though, and it goes over all of these points. Here's the fact of the matter. I actually hate the Saudi regime, but here's the thing. I also recognize we live in the real world, and you can't go to war with 100 countries at once that you've got human rights issues with, because most of the world.
Yeah, and North Korea aren't in the middle of an active shelling and invasion of one of their neighbors, right? North Korea, if anything, is being pretty docile at the moment. It's Saudi Arabia that are inflicting casualties in Yemen. It's Israel who are inflicting casualties in Palestine, right? These are the actual nations who are causing material harm right now that we should be penalizing, but we don't because they're our allies for some reason.
Are pretty bad guys, varying degrees. Saudi Arabia is pretty bad. Rob Noor is actually anti-war. That's his whole point. So let's say, what about Saudi Arabia? And then let's say I said, sure, let's go into Saudi Arabia. Now he called me a warmonger and all this. So he's totally disingenuous about it. He'd say, what about Iran? Because I'm talking about Iran tonight.
No. He's calling you out for having an inconsistent ideology. He's not specifically saying that we should invade Saudi Arabia. I think Rob is saying that we should invade neither, which is my point of view as well. But he's calling out the hypocrisy in your position, in which you say liberalism is so good that we should spread it everywhere forcefully if we need, just not to the countries that sell us oil.
I'm talking about North Korea, and he's like, well, what about Saudi? If I said, yeah, let's take out Saudi, he'd say, what about North Korea? What about Iran? So it's just moving the goalposts. And here's the fact of the matter.
It's not moving the goalposts. It's calling out for being a dipshit.
You work with some bad apples against worse apples because we did not inherit this world. This world is a very fucked up place, and we have to take all the help that we can get. And the fact of the matter is, sometimes we have natural allies and sometimes we have natural enemies. North Korea is an enemy, Saudi Arabia is a natural ally, and we can use that pressure diplomatically and economically to pressure them to reform. And they're actually doing it. Now, it'll take 100 years, 50 years. That's better than doing a war if you can pressure these useful allies of yours that are.
Yes. The Saudi regime is definitely reforming. It's not like they killed a like an incredibly prominent journalist just a few years ago.
Bad, pressure them to be better without having to do a war. That's better. But then with other countries where you can't do that, like Iran and North Korea, well, now war's the only option on the table, because if we wait and we keep trying diplomacy, which
a natural ally is just someone who will sell you oil, apparently, or try and take over your football team.
Hasn't worked, then we're going to wind up in a situation where they are now in the upper hand and have thousands of nukes, and they can bury us with Rob. You claim to be America first or whatever the hell. Seems like you're putting America last right now because it's your town in their crosshairs, dude. It's not really mine. So
all right, so
5 minutes left.
Okay, so again, these are the same sorts of arguments that you would have heard Kevin making about why we needed to intervene in Libya. We had to back al-Nusra and Islamic extremists. So back home, we're told that we had to give away we had to have the Patriot Act and give away our Fourth Amendment rights and things like that, because Kevin says Islamic extremism is so bad, we have to go with the neocons when they're violating our rights, because Islamic extremism is so bad. They're such the boogeyman. Then we align with Islamic extremists in places like Syria, in places like Afghanistan, in places like Libya. We align with them because we say, well, the other guy's so bad. But then he says, but sometimes we have to align with bad guys to go after worse guys. So we're told back home.
Don't break the rules, Kevin. Chat will tell me I need to go drop a nuke. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So that's all right. I'll talk the whole time. He had his fun. So then who have you believe is back home we have to give up our rights and stuff because Islamic extremism is the #1 threat. But then we have to ally with them in places like Libya. And then all of the State Department talking points, the intel talking points. And again, we're talking about as high stakes as you could possibly have, dropping nuclear weapons. That's what we're talking about here, right? We can see over and over and over when they said we have to do this, it'll make things better. It becomes a disaster. They said we have to do this, it'll make things better in Afghanistan, supporting the Mujahideen. Led to a disaster, led to 9/11. They refused to look into the people that financed 9/11 that was in Saudi Arabia. Kevin's fine with that as well, right? They said in Libya, NATO told us, oh, Gaddafi's such a bad dude. The country will be much better if we just support these noble rebels. Gaddafi was saying these aren't noble rebels. These are actually Islamic extremists. So we backed the Islamic extremists. They overthrew Gaddafi. And then we saw what happened to our embassy in Gaddafi. We see what happened to the country of Libya. It got worse. This happens every fucking time. Every time. And yet he still sits here with a straight face. It's like, the problem is we didn't intervene more. The problem is we didn't ignore. And now he has a new talking point to go along with it. If we just nuke the shit out of the country, if we just do that and completely demolish the country, then we don't have to worry about it backfiring us in the future. But he doesn't see the consequences of how this precedent for nuclear first strike will be adopted by people around the world. world, who will understand at that point then that they have to create their own WMDs, and particularly the countries that already have those WMDs, they'll understand that it is now justified
True, Amity Island. So true.
if they say that there's a potential hostile actor that's going to attack one of their allies, such as we say we're worried about South Korea, who's our ally, getting invaded. So if Russia says we're worried about our ally Assad getting invaded by Turkey or by the United States, they will be justified to preemptively nuclear strike because they'll
That's
say
already
that's
their
the precedent
policy.
that's been set.
But
They'll
that's
say
already
the
their
precedent right
policy.
now.
They already have a nuclear first use
That's
policy.
the sorts of things that we'll see. Right?
That's
This
already
is
their
the sort of
policy,
insane warmongering that you see.
But that's
Yes, and like, Kev, that's the point. It's a bad policy. You're arguing for the same fucking stupid policy.
People
literally
like Kevin,
already
and
their
just because he
policy.
tries to cover it, because he says, "But I'm actually a liberal. I'm actually a
You
liberal,
don't
so it's okay.
actually
It's
know
okay."
the situation. Russia already has
it's
first
absolutely
use.
insane. Like again, I thought you
Russia and
agreed not to
America
talk
both
over me
have
and to
first
follow by
use.
the rules while Dylan was gone. Can't even do that. We know, right? This is constantly what these pro warmonger people say. They constantly are like, "We need to have color revolutions. We need to have foreign interventions. We need to have
Color
troops in the ground.
revolutions are based, Rob.
We need to drop nuclear weapons and things like that." And then when the situation becomes worse, they always say, "Well, it's not our fault. We should have went further. We should have went further. That was the problem. We should have dropped more bombs. We should have had more troops. We should have perpetuity of 100,000 troops in Afghanistan. We don't know for how long." And we can say the same thing, I'm sure, about a litany of other countries. He says, when I talk about Saudi Arabia, it's just this sort of whataboutism. No, it shows that the underpinning of his philosophy that claims to be moral and justifying these interventions is horseshit because he picks and chooses when to do them. He says sometimes we have to work with bad actors, and yet they selectively choose working with bad actors that oftentimes are worse than the people that they say that we should be going after. They'll arbitrarily say, so why aren't we working with ISIS to fight Assad if Assad's worse?
Okay, wait. So we only have literally a minute left, and so I'm gonna have to go to outros. And so I will allow Kevin to. I'm gonna go probably. Rob, do you want to speak first? Or you want to let Kevin go first?
It doesn't matter.
He can go first. He can go first. I went first for the intros.
Sure, no problem. All right. Yeah. So I mean, how long do I got? 30 seconds? You said we got a minute?
30 seconds to a minute. Yeah.
And then I'm asking these questions that's stalling even further, thereby
Yes.
taking into the time that I did.
Yes.
It's real simple. No, we shouldn't preemptively use nuclear weapons. Warmongers like Kevin are wrong and try to lie us into wars all the time. They're unwilling to go fight for them themselves. It's disgusting. Even talk of legitimizing this sort of thing is absurd. But I'm not surprised that someone like Kevin would do it, who's always been a chicken hawk and a warmonger. And every single time his solution will be more violence, more overthrowing, more weapons. And in this case, as heinous as you can get.
I mean, the encroaching of state power and is kind of, and from a geopolitical angle, I mean, I'm happily to align with libertarians as long as we agree on both the problems and the solution, right? Just the issue is when you talk to libertarians about solutions to economic issues, they always turn to the market, which is bad.
Nuclear weapons.
Kevin.
Okay. Yeah. Great debate. Thanks for hosting, Dylan. So very quickly here, look, this is about us. We're not talking about leveling North Korea. We're talking about liberating North Korea, and we have to neutralize their nuclear assets, their command and control. We're talking hardened, deep underground military targets. We're not talking civilians here. Obviously collateral damage happens, but we're not talking cities. And I just want to be clear before anybody strikes.
Oh well. If there's gonna be collateral damage, I guess there's just gonna be collateral damage then, isn't there?
Strawmans me on that. I think it's very sad how my opponent talks about, his values, libertarianism, conservatism, all that sort of stuff. And he's such a sad little goblin that he would sit here and big up Gaddafi and Assad and defend Putin. And I think it very clearly shows.
Like, it's just like, unless you're willing to use nuclear weapons, then you're an Assad simp. These fucking people. He's a disgusting little rat, Caslier.
Shows you today the absolute depravity of relativism, and in order for us,
Well, don't you get it? By engaging in like a tactical nuclear strike, that's gonna depose the whole Kim regime. Don't you know that's exactly what will happen?
to take our civilization back, and in order for us to secure a world that's safe for democracy, we have to be proactive, we have to be strong, and we have to be based, and we have to get real. Thank you.
So
you can follow me at Superpower Broadcasting.
you plug that shit constantly. I like the
Oh,
grind.
100%.
I gotta say, this is probably gonna be a highlight of the night. That was entertaining to watch from start to finish, and it's entertaining for me because like I disagree with Kevin fundamentally on his stuff, but then like Rob, and I'll be like, okay, I'm on Rob's side. Then Rob will start saying stuff about like babies and incubators, and like about 2003. I'll be like, okay, now I'm back on Kevin's side. Just kept fucking flipping back and forth.
You believe the babies and incubators?
Well, no, you said you misquoted it. We talked about something that happened in 1991 when you talking about Obama's invasion.
Yeah.
2003.
The original-
The 2003 invasion had nothing to do with the babies and
Oh yeah.
incubators.
I meant he said, "How did we get there originally?"
I think Kevin in this debate, he didn't make any proper justification for the things that he advocated for. He engaged in the most kind of rank hypocrisy and the most kind of fucking shallow ideology. And literally, when it's just like liberalism, good, bomb liberalism into people regardless of consequences or casualties, right? Which again, literally anybody of any political persuasion could use that same rhetoric to want to bomb their own political ideology into. And then he also just doesn't even admit it. He just doesn't care if innocent people die as the course of his actions based on some theoretical thing that might happen in the future. Just like not only is he like insane, he's also
It's the first Bush.
But you were
The
talking
babies-
about
that's-
you were talking about the
You're talking about Obama.
invasion. Yeah.
Right, but I went back and I talked about Saddam Hussein was originally installed in his 20s.
Because you're a disingenuous hack.
Okay, no.
that doesn't wanna get
Okay,
the
that's not okay. I'm supposed to be unbiased, but I'm not because I'm a hack. So we're gonna go throw it to the judges, and they're gonna throw it to me. I can say
and Rob's right. Like all these things will just caused by the Americans arming the Mujahideen, or the Americans trying to depose Gaddafi, or the US trying to or successfully deposing what's the Iranian prime minister called? I'm gonna have to look it up. Mossadegh, that's the one, right? Doesn't matter again. It doesn't matter what the consequences are. Like with Mossadegh and with Gaddafi and with Babrak Karmal, etc., etc. It doesn't matter as long as he feels like he's spreading liberalism, right? That's the only thing that he thinks is justified because his ideology is correct. When that same justification could be used for any ideology.
the audience was divided. We throw out who won, and it was literally split down the middle.
Oh, really?
It was literally
Let's go.
split down the
Let's
middle.
flip it go, because I was at a disadvantage, man.
It was 51-49. Rob got you by 1 percentage point.
Ooh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good for the spooky hockey dude.
Yeah, it's a little scary. Yes, I agree.
49% in Dylan Burns chat. This is a liberal internationalist chat. Like I'm in the lion's den here. You know?
You're in the lion's den. I think what it was is that it's just the energy was like so 50-50, and I think it was exactly what I said. We keep getting specifics and we disagree with.
And we saw from the next match from the 2-on-2 debate, we'd seen there specifically that the audience were there for the blood sports. They weren't there for the optics. They weren't there for the actual substance of the points, which I'm here for. I'm it's a fucking blood sports debate where you win a championship belt. It's nothing serious. I get that.
With him on specifics like Operation Hair Resolve, but then we'd get back to the main topic, and they would disagree with you on the main topic, and then everybody also likes it when you call people goobers. People find.
Well, I mean, it's also good when it happens to be true, which is 100% of the time.
So the judges are throwing it to me. This is the first in Hippy Dippy Championship history. We have a draw.
Oh,
We have a draw from the judges. One voted for Rob, the other voted for Kevin, and the last one just said draw. So this is actually a draw for the first time. Split judges.
This is history, man. We're making history tonight.
This is
what happens
history. Now it's a draw. Neither of you have an L on your records. Neither of you have a W either, but both of you have a draw and probably one.
I mean, even if it was Rob, no, he made good points throughout, like most of the time. I genuinely think Rob did win this debate.
One of the better matchups we've ever had.
Well, I think it was a fun, entertaining debate, so I think that's a W for everybody. So
that is true. Unless you're a victim
Kevin proved
of a
that he's
nuclear bomb.
incapable of leaving someone finish without interrupting. He's a
except
disgusting
you're kind of a
fucking
sick
warmonger.
goblin who cares that you're liberal, that your libertarian values don't matter because you're down to ball wash for Gaddafi and other dead despots.
No. You can keep using.
I mean, obviously, like the kind of hardline libertarian ideology it's completely untenable. Kevin's correct in pointing that out, but specifically anti-interventionism incredibly defensible.
Words like ball wash.
Well, no, but it's literally accurate. That's what you did tonight,
the asshole of Dick Cheney or Donald Rumsfeld and ask if you can have seconds. You fucking want to be.
You know you took the L. You know you're sweating. You're like, please don't let me take the L. You got a draw, and now you're trying to snatch the L from the jaws of the draw. And I gotta say, it's pretty goblin pill, dude. It really is.
What is goblin pill? I don't even know what that means.
Well, it's like the Kremlin goblin, right? So here we are.
You're a fan of Putin if you're against nuclear.
Like Kevin Castley is so fucking deranged. He has like a Kremlin list of people that he thinks are like paid off by the Russian state on Twitter, and it includes Kyle Kalinske, Nina Turner, and Tucker Carlson. It's just the wildest list of people. He's pretty fucking spicy, a human being. Also crazy.
No, the consequence of everything you said tonight was in Putin's interest. I don't actually care if you love him or hate him. You're gonna act in his interest, bro. You're gonna act in his interest.
So we're gonna, if you guys want to keep going back and forth, you can have a personal call.
Yeah, it's in Putin's interest if we don't nuke North Korea. What?
We have commentary team, and we got to plug. We got to get ready for the next thing, which is the tag team championship. Thank you both for doing this. I can honestly say this is one of my favorite matches I've ever had on the show. It was really good. Thank you both. We might have to do a round two. Thank you both for
We'll have to do a round two. I'll be doing a post show on my channel after the whole Hippy Dippy championship is over. So if you guys come by in a few hours, I'll be talking about how I think I did. And
Awesome.
now I think that Rob
gotta-
did, so.
You keep plugging yourself, man. You keep doing it. You'll get
Well,
those
See
nukes.
you later.
Peace.
Okay. Bring in the comment. Holy fucking shit. What a match.
We're gonna bring. I guess I'll watch what Son Sol, Heem, and IRI have to say about it. They're all pretty libby, so they should have some fun takes on.
My God, what a match.
Woo!
Whoa, my God. What'd you guys think of that one? Now that's a cage match.
Now that's
That was a lot of fun.
That is a
was
cage
two
match.
Titans.
Can I
Two
just say
Titans.
the best thing to
fighting.
come out of that was Goblin Pilled? I've never heard that before, but I definitely want to hear it again. We have to make Goblin Pilled happen. Okay, guys?
Oh my God. First thing I want to say, what do you guys think of the
No,
judge's
no.
decision?
I think
You can't let a meme come from Kevin Castley. That'd be embarrassing.
I agree.
I agree. I kept on, I said the exact same thing as you did. I kept on saying, well, yeah, Rob is right here. I'm on Rob's side. And then then he would say some like fucking crazy shit. And I would have to say, actually, Kevin Cashley, he's sounding pretty basic.
You want to
right
know
now.
what I think it was? I think it was this. Number one, if Rob would have just stayed on the nukes and didn't get into specifics about Assad or
Yeah,
Ukraine or any of that, then it would have knocked it out of the park because it's an easy position
Yep.
to debate, right? But when
But
he
the
got
fact
into
you
those
start defending
specifics, then
chemical warfare people, yeah.
he got into specifics, and the problem is, even if Rob is right on the specifics, Kevin Castley knows so much about foreign policy that he just has all this information he's going to throw at you because he studies this thing like crazy. And so that was the main mistake Rob made, and Kevin was able to get the draw, I think, by adding that with two good uses of cage matches that made it like in a phone booth, like in a phone booth fight that
I think Dylan's right here that a bunch of non-nuclear related foreign policy issues got Rob bogged down when he should have just gone all in on this idea that Kevin Castley is literally a fucking like insane person for wanting to preemptively strike North Korea with nuclear weapons, right?
I was talking about earlier, and that's how I think he was able to grab it. I was interested though, because I thought if Rob used his cage match just like we saw in the last one for Kevin Castley's anti-statement, then I think he could have possibly got the W. But he didn't, and I think if he'd done that, I think he would have gotten it. It was literally a perfect match where both of them could improve their game before the next one, and honestly, probably one of the better Hippy Dippy matches we've ever had.
Yeah,
Can
I
I
did
say,
not know that they hated each other so much. I felt like there was some genuine vitriol
That
there.
was
I
a
like to see it.
grudge match.
Literally everyone hates Kevin Castley because he's such a fucking ugly. He's just such an irritating face, and also bad opinions, and also Isabel End.
You want to say something, Heem?
Absolutely.
Can I say, I think when Kevin said that North Korea could rule for 8 to 10 million years,
8 to 10
that was
million.
that was an L, all right. And also one
it was
other
an L.
thing,
It was an L.
that was a huge L. And the other thing, like, listen, it can be kind of funny to kind of plug your channel
see.
mid debate, but he is too much with it, bro. I don't know what you guys think. I think that he crosses the line to cringe.
I like it because I
Flip
just
and go.
as a creator, I respect the grind, and so I was respecting his grind set there.
Yes. I think the cage match format was made for those two Titans
For
right
those
there.
two,
That was
absolutely.
beautiful.
For those
Huge
two.
personalities.
Great, I think that was a
Yes.
great last second decision by the chief
Judges.
executive. Yeah, great last second
Oh,
decision
right.
for a cage match.
Do,
Oh my
do you
God.
think so? This was so Dylan, just to recap, of course, as the commentary, this was the second matchup between these two, right?
This is the second debate I've hosted between them? The first one
So-
was just like this, and it's on my channel. And if you want to go check that out, you can also watch
Was that
on stream.
superpower broadcasting?
Yeah, it's super. But man, these two go at it every time like a phone booth. I love it every time. You know, and it feels like watching like a Marvin Hagler versus Hearns. It's like
Well,
like
I was gonna ask if there's
oh my
gonna be a
gosh.
third match. Is there gonna be a third
There
matchup
has to
now? Yeah.
Now it feels like we need to
trilogy.
follow up. Put these two hell in a cell, right? Oh my
The
God,
trilogy, the trilogy.
grudge match. It feels like we
I-
need
I-
that trilogy. Yeah.
I think Twitch politics lexicon will forever have Jester Pilled Goober. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I love the goober talk. All right.
Goblin
It's-
Pill.
Goblin pilled goober
Goblin
man.
Pilled, Jester Pilled. Wow, Kevin was on fire tonight. And Rob
He
brought
was
that
on fire.
energy he always
He-
brings. I love Rob.
Wait,
I disagree with him on
sorry.
everything, but I love him.
I just want to say, do you guys think I've noticed that Kevin has recently tried to follow in my footsteps and grow out his beard? Do you think that the beard is helping him establish his dominance in these?
No, at least Heem has the decency to shave the sides of his beard. That fucking like noddy holder thing that Kevin's going on with like the sideburns that stick out. God, it looks horrendous. I mean, I'm not the best fan of facial. I'm not a fan of facial hair at the best of times, but Kevin's beard is especially awful. It's especially like guy you meet in the pub with like bits and you can just like red stripe dripping from it. Right, that's the kind of vibe I get from Kevin's beard.
I think it was, but I think it's getting too wild. It's getting wild.
Yeah. need to
Hit me up,
straighten that
hit
shit,
me
you
up.
know?
Hit me up. I'll give you some grooming tips, bruv.
My goodness, what a match.
Oh, at least they
By the way,
go.
for everybody at home, this show cost over $2,000 to produce. It was a very expensive program,
Jesus,
and we'd
fucking
appreciate
hell.
any donations, subs, or anything you could throw to make.
I mean, when it was live, they had like 3K viewers. So then probably must have made that money back as long as everyone like $1 per person or whatever. Plus people viewing on all of these other channels as well. So yeah, I mean, don't think there's really much to say about that other than that Kevin Castley is lucky to have escaped with a draw there by Rob just not being good at sticking on point, but also Kevin's points were ridiculous and mostly unsubstantiated and also deranged. So difficult to be able to argue with the result there. But it's fun to know that he's just like as mad. It's just like he's as mad as he is on his actual channel as he is on Twitter. We learned that, which is good. Moral of the story: just don't use nuclear weapons, mate. Just don't do it. It's bad.